What are the top 5 things you can do to improve your leadership presence and your leadership image? What do you think that would be? Do you think it's performance? Do you think it's your technical knowledge? Do you think it's your awareness of the larger strategy of the company? We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Welcome, I'm the real Charles Brown, and this is our YouTube channel where we talk about all things identity, purpose, leadership, peak performance. And today we're talking about leadership presence. And there's really 5 basic things that we need to talk about that you really have to focus on to build your leadership brand, build a high-performing team around you, and really become a trusted leader within any organization. And they're not exactly what people think. Now, my background is specifically heavily technical, engineering, construction, very high risk, very highly technical fields. And one of the problems that we run into most often is when these technical leaders are promoted into leadership roles based on their technical ability and not necessarily on their leadership capacity. Very different skill set. Now, we know that rationally and we know that intuitively, but there are some biases within us that make us believe that technical acumen translates into leadership acumen. If you're a new leader or you're thinking about growing your career, or you're someone who's frustrated because you're not experiencing the career growth that you really hoped for, let's talk about these 5 things that can really make a difference in your leadership capacity and how you're seen as a leader and ultimately your brand as an individual. First and foremost is your reliability and your consistency. Now, I don't have the statistics right in front of me. I'm happy to provide those maybe in the comments, but I absolutely know this as a fact that people who were polled would rather have a leader who is consistent, even if that leader is underperforming, rather than having a wildly inconsistent and unreliable leader. And why is that? Well, as humans, we seek safety and security. And one of the ways that we build trust, which all of these 5 factors feed into, and all of these 5 factors help develop, one of the ways that we develop trust in a leader is in their consistency and in their reliability. We want to know whether we're having a good day or we're having a bad day, that when we go to that leader, we're going to get a pretty consistent response from that person. And we're not going to be impacted on the variability of their day. We know that we can go to them and we know what their communication style is going to be. We know what their receptiveness is going to be. We know that they're always going to follow the rules or they're never going to follow the rules. That type of consistency gives us confidence that we can follow that leader, and we know the type of response and we know the type of person that that is. That helps us build trust. Secondly, of course, a major component of trust, if I asked you what those components were, would be honesty. And honesty is kind of an easy thing, but it's also a very complicated thing. First and foremost, to be considered honest by people, do what you say. Tell the truth, be honest with people, and if you don't know the answer, have the presence and the confidence to say that I don't know, rather than making up some facts. Keep your promises. A really important way and a really powerful way to demonstrate your honesty is to keep promises. And here I'm going to give you a little bit of a cheat code on this. If you're not quite sure if you do this well enough, if you don't have enough opportunities to do this, create opportunity. Create small opportunities for you to demonstrate honesty. Maybe I have the report right here next to me, but instead of just taking it out of the drawer and handing it to someone, say, I'll get you that report right away, or I'll get you that report by the end of the day, and then follow through on that and deliver that report when you said you were going to deliver that report. Now, I know on the surface, hey, Charles, that sounds a little deceptive and it sounds a little bit weird, but it's really more about what you're doing to yourself and the behavior that you're modifying in yourself rather than deceiving other people. By making small commitments that you can deliver on, you are exercising that muscle, and then those commitments and those promises can become bigger and bigger, and you are going to be considered and perceived as an honest person. The next trait of a good leader that builds trust in an organization is faith. They want to have faith in you, which means you have to demonstrate goodwill. On many occasions, a way to demonstrate a goodwill in others to receive their faith is to go out of your way and demonstrate goodwill. Small little things can make a big, big difference. If you give a presentation and you come off the stage and I say, wow, that was a great presentation, good job, you're gonna appreciate that. But what if then 2 or 3 days later, I see you again and say, hey, I just wanted to give you some more feedback. That 2-3 days ago, I know I already told you this, but I really want you to, I really wanted to reach out to you again and tell you how impactful that presentation was. Or I know that it's not necessarily your favorite thing in the world to do, but you did a really good job. Which of those two accolades do you think is going to be better received? Kind of the obligatory one of when you come off the stage, or 2 or 3 days later where I think back and say, man, that person was really stepping out of their comfort zone. It was really uncomfortable for them. Of course, that second one is. So look for those opportunities. Next, it's about an internal opportunity, which is vulnerability, being open. I was told by a mentor, shine a spotlight on your mistakes. It actually builds a great deal of trust in the audience and in your team if you don't try to deflate, detract, or ignore your mistakes, but instead shine a spotlight on them as an opportunity for everyone to learn from them. By demonstrating that vulnerability to your team, they're going to reciprocate and they're going to be more open with you about their fears, their concerns, and maybe mistakes that they made. When you do that, you have a team that comes together. Again, ultimately that builds trust in you as a leader. It builds trust in your team. Everyone's performance improves. And finally, competency. Yep, I know I said, hey, technical acumen doesn't necessarily immediately equate to leadership acumen, but you have to be competent at what you're doing. The mistake that people make is they try to rely on their technical competency instead of learning, exercising, and developing their leadership competency. So if you're new to a role or you're looking to move into a leadership role, look for opportunities to grow that competency. Volunteer for positions that are maybe a bit of a stretch for you, or more complicated projects, or something that is maybe in an adjacent field that you haven't necessarily done. That gives you an opportunity to say, I know that isn't where my technical training is, but I was able to step into that role and learn how to be a leader outside of my normal space. Okay, those are my 5 strongest recommendations for what we as leaders need to continue to develop. It builds trust in our teams, they reciprocate with us, and it makes your brand as a leader oh so much more powerful. Thanks for watching, and of course, I welcome any comments down below. If you have further questions or topics that you want me to talk about on future videos, by all means, drop those in there too. Thanks for stopping by.